To call this open meeting to order.
She's got a hammer in her hand, I'll tell you after.
Oh, sorry.
Dan didn't even have to do it. And we will welcome back staff that are online and board members who are online. I can't see everybody right now because I'm looking at my agenda, but we are on 4.1, a delegation from many people. I'm gonna let, sorry, Jenna.
Are they here or on the screen?
They're on the screen. Okay, thank you. And CEO Helmer is here. She's just got her camera off, which is fine. And we're bringing in Kim, Director Needham for the delegation. And are you in charge of that?
I'm showing the presentation, but
Okay.
Kristen and Melanie do the work.
Got it.
Right. Ready for it?
We're waiting for you.
Really?
No.
Okay, good.
What's the deal, Kim?
CEO Helmer is going to be doing the admitting. We have Miss Smith. And
Okay.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. We are grateful to see you on our screens. And I will turn the presentation over to Director Needham to start us off. No?
sorry, I have.
Who's here?
Okay.
You.
Hi, were you looking for an introduction of the delegates?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, so today's delegation will be from Talisker. Talisker has a mining operation up at Bralorne, and Michael McPhee will be representing Talisker. So I'll turn it over to him for his presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to make sure that, oh, there we go. Okay, great. My name is Michael McPhee. I'm the Vice President of Sustainability and External Resources for Talisker Resources Limited. I want to just introduce my two colleagues who you'll hear from shortly as well. We understand we only have, I think, 10 minutes for this, so it's a relatively quick overview for you. It's intended as an introduction and as a introduction to us and an introduction to the Bralorne project and our work in the district. My colleagues are Caitlin James, who's the environmental coordinator at the site at Bralorne, and she's a Bridge River Valley resident. And you'll hear from her in a second. And Christy Smith, who leads our Indigenous and stakeholder relations on behalf of Talisker. And you'll hear from Christy as well, and particularly in terms of our relationships with the number of nations in the Stallion nations that we work with in the area. So one thing, if I can say, I'd just like to acknowledge Sal Damar, our district council member, who's I saw earlier, and very much appreciate the board's willingness to hear from us today, and hope this is a useful presentation for you. I understand at the end, Madam Chairwoman, that there would be a question and answer. So we'll just move through these slides. There's only about 10 of them, and then open it up to questions, is my understanding how things operate here. So if I'm wrong on anything, please let me know. I'll just move right into the presentation. Just so you know, that picture on the front there is the old tracks from back in the 1930s that when the Bralorne mine was operating, and carried a lot of gold mineralized rock across there for processing and things. So part of the historical part of the Bralorne property. So can I just go over to the next slide, please? We've done our introductions, and this is just an overview of the things that we're going to speak about today that I'll talk to and kind of complete with a sort of an update on what our future plans are. All right, next slide, please. Again, just by way of introductions, so you see us on screen, and there's pictures of us in our various and I will say that picture that I have of myself there is from the old Britannia mine, just in case which is part of your district as well. So a lot of history along through the corridor. Next slide, please. Just on health and safety, it would have been great to be in the presence of the council today. Obviously, we couldn't be there, and we know you're opening up, but we did want to just mention health and safety in our business is a really, really big deal. We have a fantastic record of taking care of our employees. We did just want to do a bit of a shout out to our team, because in this COVID program, when you have a work camp and people coming from other areas into a small community, we were very, very aware of potential exposure pathways and things like that. We put an exposure control plan in for COVID. And I can say, and I think it's one of the only sort of work camps in the whole province, we never had any COVID outbreaks. We had a testing program that we did in partnership with Hoiston First Nation, and we tested everybody before they came on site, and we isolated anybody. And I know the board is very, very aware of all the steps that need to be taken in that area, but I wanted to just note that really, really proud of our team. We protected the community, and we protected our workers, and we were able to operate mostly uninterrupted for the entire 2-year period, which was, I think, a pretty big achievement and acknowledgement to the team. Okay, the next slide, please. In terms of Talisker RESOURCES, we're a publicly traded company. Our head office is in Toronto. We have offices in Vancouver, and we have our major sort of presence in the Bridge River Valley at Bralorne. We're working throughout the region, and I won't do any geological talks right now, but this is really just a focus. It really follows the pioneering, Fraser River gold exploration that has taken place over the last century, and we're focusing on an area. We just wanted to show that we're more than just Bralorne, and we had about 60 to 70 people working last summer throughout the region, not outside of Bralorne, and quite a large, about 140 people total in our company working in British Columbia, and spread out amongst this area that goes all the way to the edge of Penticton, and then up through Spence's Bridge and Princeton, and then up to Bralorne. So just wanted to give you a focus. Our major intent is on Bralorne, but we have interests in other places as well. And these other areas are what they refer to as greenfield exploration, where you're sending teams of geologists out to do preliminary evaluations and things, and some are a little more advanced. Next slide, please. In your package that was sent out, we included a community impact report. This is kind of the first year we've done this, so we just wanted to give you a sense, and most people don't always understand sort of where the value comes from exploration companies, and we wanted to just provide a bit of a sense of what that meant and what it means to the district. And the full report was provided to you in your package. Next slide, please. And this is just something I wanted to touch on. A couple of key statistics that we put together. You know, our vendors that we work with by location, and local is the Bridge River Valley area. Regional includes the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District, and then provincial, national. And you can see that a real, at least 50% of our spending is regional and local on the bottom left. And that's a big deal in that area, and it benefits hopefully a lot of the folks living and working in that area. And we just wanted to kind of highlight that a bit. And this is our first year. The top right I thought would be interesting. You can see the distribution of our workers. We weren't able to get our Indigenous employment into this figure at the time because unfortunately the timing didn't work. That'll come out in subsequent reports, but you can see both in terms of age and distribution of gender of our workers. We have quite a young team, it's 41% in that 26 to 35 range. I'm up in that 11%, most of it's in the bottom part. So, we have a young, vibrant team that is living and working in the area. Next slide, please. I'm just going to turn it over to Christy to speak on behalf of this piece.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Michael. I think I'm on the 11% as well. That was a bit of a shocker. So yeah, our main focus, of course, in the area is to respect those that were there before time immemorial. So we recognize we've got an Indigenous policy. We adhere to it. We work very closely with Bridge River Indian Band with a raft of things that we are doing today. In September 2020, we signed an exploration agreement, which sort of lays out the foundation of how that relationship has unfolded over time. I can say that we're doing very well in our communications and our relationship building with them. I don't know, is there a second? Maybe hit the next slide. I can keep going.
I don't have the next slide.
The relationship. Yeah, so we've been fortunate enough to participate in the community right before COVID. And then while COVID was kind of going on, we've supported the community in a variety of initiatives, such as bringing in a freezer so that they could store additional food during COVID, participating and supporting some of the things that they're trying to do to build the community back up to functioning as a whole, as a community as well. And so we're pretty proud of that relationship. The other Statlium communities that we are engaging with, Unquaqua, Lillooet, and Seton Lake, they all participate, and we'll speak about it a bit further down in another slide, but on our environmental monitoring board. So we have also been working closely with the ASET, which is the Aboriginal Skills Employment Training Group. I guess now Indigenous Skills and Employment Training Group, to look at upcoming courses, and so that they kind of align with where we're headed. So camp work, environmental monitoring services. I think they just ran an archaeological cultural heritage course. So all those things that we're doing in the community, making sure that we are good partners and continue to do so. So I'll pass it back to Mike.
Thanks, Christy. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Caitlin, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Mike. We wanted to highlight a few ways in which we engage with the immediate local community as well. So 2 of our staff members currently participate in the Bridge River Valley Community Association Economic Development Committee, as well as several subcommittees, including a working relationship group and the Bralorne Community Advisory Committee. We've also supported activities held in Bralorne, such as Bralorne Days, and community-wide events such as Winterfest and smaller events held at the local community center. Talisker's continually supported the Bralorne Pioneer Museum as well, specifically regarding the preservation, storage, and display of historic maps that are soon actually to be transferred over to the museum from our mine site once they have a safe place to be stored. We also began holding an environmental invasive plant pull last year, where we volunteer our staff time to pull invasive species in and around the local community, as well as invasive species on our mine site. This year, we're also hoping to support the Lillooet Regional Invasive Species Society during their annual visit to the valley. We'll supply them with some staff, some extra hands. Talisker also agreed to work with the Bralorne Recreation Area Advisory Committee on the Sunshine Mountain Project. So Talisker is going to volunteer 112 machine hours and also 280 labor hours to help with the trail building and the road rehabilitation of that project. We also sponsored wildlife biologist Robin Nadeau last year with his project in the South Chilcotin Mountains Provincial Park. So Talisker paid for 5 of our staff to venture out into the park and swap out camera batteries and clear vegetation around his wildlife cams. We're hoping to support him again this year with his work. Next slide, please. This was just a touch on the environmental monitoring board meetings, which Christy already mentioned. So quarterly we'll hold a meeting with our Indigenous communities, so Tiquet, Chalath, Poiston, the Quaqua, and the Lillooet Tribal Council. As well, we have a member from Energy of Mines and Ministry of Environment who attend those meetings as well.
Great. Thanks, Caitlin. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is just the last 2 slides and we'll wrap up. I know we're out of time. One thing that has been a topic of discussion is around our historic exploration camp that we've been using for temporary accommodation and facilities. It is within a mine boundary and a mine site boundary and is regulated by the provincial government. We do have active discussions going on with SLRD staff regarding temporary use permits for accommodation and food facilities, which are outside of the Mines Act. And so that is going on, and we expect formal applications in that regard to go in next week. It's a little bit delayed on our part only because of the winter and some other issues that caused us to kind of take a pause over the Christmas period. And the other piece that has come up before the board, I believe, is this issue of wastewater treatment and things. And at this stage, what we're doing is taking that water to a municipally regulated facility, and we have a partnership with the Hoiston First Nation in doing that. But we have applied to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy for a wastewater treatment system. So that process is ongoing. Next slide, please, and I'll just finish up. Just a last comment is that we expect to complete our exploration drill program later this year. We will publish a mineral resource. We hope that that's going to be strong enough to allow us to consider a future mining restart. Lots more to come on that in the months ahead. The next step for us is to publish this resource later this year, and then we would initiate a permitting process around that. So we just wanted people to know that we got a long way to go, got a lot of work to do before we're there, but ultimately that is our goal and our hope that would be possible. So, but that would go through a very extensive permitting process. So that's kind of our presentation today. I really appreciate the time. I hope we didn't take too long. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McPhee, and thank you, Ms. James and Ms. Smith, for your excellent presentation. It's okay that you went over a bit because it was that's what happens sometimes, and that's okay. Are there any questions from anyone? Director Birch Jones, go ahead.
Thank you. It's good to hear you're going to be working with ALRIS in the future on the invasive weeds. They're the experts and they do work in your area, so you'll be much more effective partnering with them. And having attended a couple of presentations by Robin Nadeau on his work, the South Dakota camera work, it's fantastic work. It's really good stuff and it's helping in so many different ways. Keep funding him if you can. I'm part of the Lillooet Naturalists and we're certainly helping as far as we can too. I'm concerned about the wastewater. And when you talk about trucking it to Hoyston, they don't have a disposal facility, at least to my knowledge. Tell me what you're doing there. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I realized because of time, I kind of went past that quickly. So thank you for the question. So we have a regulated, this is just for black and gray water from the site. We do have a permitted septic field that's been there for a long time, and we're dealing with infrastructure, of course, that has been around for decades, right? And we're always trying to keep. So this is it's going to Lillooet, not to Hoyston. So it's being hauled by Hoyston's enterprises. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the actual company. Bridge River Management, I think it's called, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, and so they're hauling it to the facility in Lillooet, not at Hoyston. And it's a truck every couple of days that goes there.
Because that facility needs some serious upgrading as well. But thank you for answering the question.
Yeah.
Director,
Thank you for the presentation. One of the questions I have is, what are mining companies doing and where are they part of the discussion in terms of reducing their GHG emissions?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. Of course, mining is a very heterogeneous business. You know, there's big guys and there's folks that are involved in different minerals. Our approach here is underground gold exploration is our primary thing. The GHG emissions are primarily from the transportation of people and equipment. And so it's something we monitor now. We are calculating, and it would be our goal if a project moved forward that we would use. And one of the great things they can do in the business now is that all your equipment working underground and things can be electrical as opposed to diesel generated. And that's something that's moving rapidly forward in the business and something that we would look to adopt. But really our primary emissions come from driving trucks around and moving people in and out of the site. We don't have a lot of options there right now, but it's certainly very much on our radar screen. If we were to move forward into a development phase, our intent would be to be electric powering of almost all equipment that was used, which would make our footprint very, very small in comparison. Yep.
I can also just add too that when we do our shift changes currently right now, we are doing carpooling. So we fill an entire truck and we only have about 5 trucks every travel day, and we rotate through the trucks each shift. So we do our best to try and carpool every rotation.
Thank you. Also, Ms. Rufio, I was just a bit confused by the timing of the application for the TUP. So are those trailer units being used now?
So yeah, thanks. And I realized that would come across. What's there is historical. That mine site has operated with camp facilities for probably 30 or 40 years without a TUP. And so in discussions with staff, the request has been made to get this into compliance with the district bylaws. And so that's the work that we've been doing now, is to prepare for that. The trouble is that we didn't have, because these are all temporary unit ATCO trailer systems, but they're all quite historic, and so we didn't have the drawings or the plans for them and all that sort of thing. So it's taken us a little bit longer than we would have hoped. But I want to indicate that the infrastructure that we're using has all been sort of temporary ATCO units that have either been there or adjacent to our site the whole time. So, but we're trying to get it into compliance. Sorry.
Appreciate that. And Director Demare is always reminding us about what an important employer you are in that region. I think that's important to acknowledge, but the rules of local government are also really important to us as a board. And so making sure that that compliance is there so that the corporations that are working in the regional district are following our bylaws. I think it's important for mining operations and anyone else in industry to be setting an example of applying first and getting those permits. So it's just something to keep in mind for the future. I think it doesn't sit well with me. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you. And if I could just add one, Talisker's only owned the property for about 2 years. And the majority of this, almost all this infrastructure was already there when we acquired it and the permits weren't in place. So we are doing everything we can to get that. And our commitment to the board is that it's top priority. And in the weeks and months ahead, we hope to have this all squared away properly.
Thank you.
Director Crompton?
I just wanted to follow up on Director Elliott's comment. Just clarify, you are using those facilities that are not permitted for use at this point?
I mean, the short answer to that is yes, they are being used to house our employees that are doing exploration actively, but they've been there since probably 1970.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I will thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to hearing from you again really soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Disappointing, that was just a gold mine and not a Talisker distillery, but.
Want to close again and then stay?
Are we being recorded?
Yeah, I'm glad we left that
That is
until
why.
they left.
Okay.
Brought some of her distillery
Samples.
Robin Navy's an amazing guy.
Until SSRD. So we have an hour until Regional Hospital District, which is going, whatever, I'm not gonna presuppose how long it's gonna take. We still have items from closed that we can deal with now. Go to Regional Hospital District and then go back to open. But I don't think it'll take us an hour. Anyways, what do we want to do? Do we want to close, finish closed, then go into open? Or shall we do open, come back to closed either later today or tomorrow?
The closed that's the only item left on the closed, right?
Yeah.
So we would be through that
Well,
agenda.
there's some correspondence and there's a late presentation from Sarah on something. So, and that will take a bit of conversation. So I don't want to rush that. Sarah is prepared to present today.
I'd suggest we finish
Yeah.
Closed.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 We have a light day tomorrow, so anything open that doesn't get dealt with by today can be dealt with tomorrow. We're good with that? Okay, let's do that. Can I have someone make the motion that we go back into close? Moved by Director Elliott, second by Director Rainbow. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Open the windows.